do something with Liberty of London with that thematic. So where things were different with me, of course, is that
supportive, and I think just naturally I was doing what I've always loved to do, and people couldn't see that more broadly.
Called him that evening and I was like, look, I'm leaving the day after tomorrow. Do you want to grab dinner tomorrow night? And I'm sure he thought it was
October 1st, 2025. Someone's scrolling through the official royal family website. Boring stuff, right? And they notice something off. Harry and Meghan's pages look different. Way different. All those detailed biographies that used to be there? Gone. Educational backgrounds, career milestones, personal achievements just removed. What's left is basically a few sentences. Actress, former military. That's it. Now here's what makes this interesting. When you check everyone else's pages, nothing's changed.
It is very, very telling when the British monarchy's website deletes details from the bio in one of their...
Catherine's bio, still completely detailed. Sophie's, untouched. Every working royal has their full story up there except for these two. So something very specific happened to their pages. And the timing is what caught people's attention. Why now? Why them? And more importantly, what was in those edited out sections that made someone decide they needed to come down? Because when you start looking at what actually got taken down, the specific claims about education, internships, life experiences.
It all started with something so subtle most people would have missed it. A quiet update on the official royal family website. The kind of thing
you realize there's a story here that goes way deeper than a simple website update. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. But real quick, if you want to see more content where we actually investigate what's happening behind the polished PR, hit subscribe right now. Tap the like button so I know this is the kind of thing you're here for. And turn on notifications, because what I've uncovered about these changes, there's a pattern, and it's bigger than you think. Stick around, because I'm about to show you every detail that disappeared, and when you see them all laid out...
It is very, very telling when the British monarchy's website deletes details from the bio. And
the reason for the edits becomes pretty clear. Let's start with what got changed on Meghan's educational background, because this is where things get really interesting. So let's talk about what actually got changed on Meghan's page, starting with her education. For years, the royal website listed her time at Northwestern University with some pretty specific details. The bio mentioned she had a double major in theater and international relations. Sounds impressive, right? Theater for her acting career, international relations for that global perspective.
Meanwhile, if you are a watcher of the royal family and you like secrets, you might want to sit down because this is...
It painted this picture of someone with both creative and academic credentials. Here's where things get interesting. Northwestern University doesn't offer international relations as a major. They've got international studies, similar topics, different program. So there's a mismatch between what the website said and what the school actually offers. Simple error in the write-up? Maybe. But it's still inaccurate either way. Then people started digging deeper. Folks looking through Northwestern's old yearbooks noticed she wasn't in the 2003 graduating class photo.
It all started with something so subtle most people would have missed it. A quiet update on the official royal family website.
Okay, lots of people skipped those. But staff members also mentioned she wasn't on campus during her final semester. Put those pieces together and you've got questions about how and when the degree was actually completed. The palace had options here. Clarify the details, explain the timeline, address the program name confusion. What did they do instead? Took down all the educational information entirely. Her page now doesn't mention Northwestern degrees or majors. Just gone. And look, this wouldn't be so noticeable if everyone got the same treatment.
Prince William, he clearly had a special connection with the Queen and Prince Philip, and it shows.
Catherine's educational background, still fully detailed. Her time at St. Andrews, her art history degree, it's all right there. Sophie's career path and education, also untouched. When the facts line up with public records, nothing needs changing. The contrast is hard to miss. That covers the education angle. Next up is an internship story that also disappeared. This one's supposedly in Argentina during a pretty eventful time in that country's history. All right, so now let's talk about the Argentina thing, because this is where the story gets even more interesting.
It all started with something so subtle most people would have missed it. A quiet update on the official royal family website.
For a long time, Meghan talked about having this official internship at the US Embassy in Buenos Aires. The way she described it made it sound pretty prestigious, like she was there doing real diplomatic work, getting that international experience, the whole deal. And honestly, on paper, that sounds amazing. US Embassy internship in Argentina? That's the kind of thing that looks great on any resume. But here's where things don't quite add up. People who were at the embassy back then started sharing a different version. According to them, it wasn't some official government program.
The royal family's website has officially been updated to include the titles of Harry and Meghan's children. For more information on
It was more of a family favor. Her uncle had connections and arranged for her to shadow some diplomats for a few weeks. Not a formal internship, not an official placement, just someone pulling strings to let her see how things worked. Now look, networking happens, connections matter. That's just how the world works. But there's a big difference between I had an embassy internship and my uncle got me access to shadow people for a bit. And then there's the timing. This was 2002, and Argentina was going through some serious stuff.
Meghan Markle is under growing pressure to speak out after her best friend.
Economic collapse, protests in the streets, the whole country was dealing with a massive crisis. Embassy staff during that time weren't exactly free to roam around the city however they wanted. There were security protocols, movement restrictions, the kind of thing that happens when a country's in the middle of major instability. You don't just casually go out for tango nights and cultural experiences when the situation's that tense. But the way Meghan's talked about it over the years, it sounds like this romantic semester abroad.
Prince Harry's title quietly changed on royal family website, following major blunder. Exclusive.
Learning Spanish, soaking up the culture, experiencing Buenos Aires. And maybe some of that happened, who knows? But the picture she painted doesn't really match up with what insiders described back then. Embassy staff were dealing with a crisis situation, not hosting interns for cultural immersion programs. So once again, the palace looked at this and probably thought, do we really want to defend this story? And just like with the education stuff, they decided the easier move was to just take it all down. No more mentions of Argentina, no internship details, nothing.
So there she is. She's angry. Harry's trying to smile because he knows the cameras are there. He's been trained all his life to smile.
Just removed it entirely rather than try to explain the differences between her version and what others remember. Those are two pretty big things that got removed from her page. But there's this smaller story too, something that seems almost minor until you realize it's part of the same pattern. Let's talk about a high school memory that didn't quite check out. So here's where it gets kind of wild, because we're talking about something that seems so small and random, but it actually matters. Meghan's mentioned in interviews this memory of her high school grad night at Disneyland back in 1999.
Developing today, did Prince Harry collude with the media outlet?
You know, that whole senior tradition where everyone goes to the theme park after graduation, stays up all night, the classic California high school experience. She's told this story a few times, talked about it like it was this special moment, even got a bit nostalgic about it. Problem is, the school's records don't match up. Not that year anyway. According to the school, Grad Night 1999 got canceled because not enough students signed up. It just didn't reach the numbers they needed to book the event, so the whole thing fell through.
Did you know Meghan is using her royal title to promote products online? Recently, Meghan launched a shopping page on Instagram. She simply posted.
Now, maybe some kids went to Disneyland on their own that night, bought their own tickets, did their own thing. That's totally possible. But there wasn't an official school grad night event that year. At least not the organized one. So why does this matter? I mean, it's just a high school memory, right? People misremember stuff all the time. But here's the thing. She's told this story multiple times. It's not like she mentioned it once and moved on. She's brought it up in different interviews, talked about it like it's a confirmed part of her past.
Prince Harry just made his most desperate move yet, and it screams one thing loud and clear. He wants out. Out of California.
And Harry's even backed her up on it in conversations like it's just an accepted fact. When you keep repeating something that doesn't match what the school has on record, it raises some eyebrows. And from the palace's perspective, this is another detail they've got to think about. Do they want that story sitting on an official royal website when it doesn't line up with the school's records? Probably not. It's not worth the headache of having to explain the mismatch. So just like the other stuff, it probably got swept into the let's just remove it pile.
Meghan has long painted that short stay in Buenos Aires as a glamorous official internship at the U.S. Embassy, but people who were actually there.
Okay, so that's 3 things that got taken down from Meghan's page, but Harry's bio got edited too, and what happened there goes back way further, all the way to his school days at Eton. All right, so now we need to talk about Harry's side of this, because his page got trimmed down too. And what got removed there goes all the way back to his time at Eton, which is basically the most elite boarding school in England. We're talking about the place where future prime ministers and royals have gone for generations. It's prestigious, it's expensive, and yeah, it's tough academically.
And through her acting career, and specifically with Suits, was paid about $50,000 per episode, and she did 100 episodes. So
here's the thing about Harry at Eton. There have been questions about how he actually made it through for years now. And I'm not just talking about random internet gossip. There were reports from people who were there, staff members, insiders, saying he really struggled with the coursework. Like, seriously struggled. And at some point, according to reports, a teacher stepped in to help him get through an art project. Not just tutoring or guidance, but providing more help than usual so he could pass. Now, that's a pretty big deal if that's what happened, because that's not how things are supposed to work.
Harry and Meghan are making some moves this week, including a rebrand, an announcement, and a series of appeals.
But what makes this story stick around is what happened next. The teacher who reportedly helped him, she ended up leaving the school, and it wasn't a quiet retirement situation. She took legal action against Eton over how things went down. The whole thing got settled, money changed hands, and everyone involved signed agreements to keep quiet about the details. So we've got this situation where there's a legal settlement on record, a teacher who's no longer at the school, and questions about his academic path there. And here's why it matters beyond just school drama.
The royal family quietly removes Prince Harry's Meghan Markle romance statement from its website. Over 4 years after Prince Harry and Meghan...
Sandhurst, the military academy where Harry trained, doesn't usually take people with weak academic backgrounds. They've got standards, requirements, the whole deal. So, with questions about his time at Eton, how'd he get into Sandhurst? Well, that's where being a royal probably helped smooth things over. Connections matter, and when you're in line to the throne, even as the spare, doors tend to open. The palace could have addressed all this years ago. They could have explained the situation, clarified what happened, maybe even been upfront about it.
In California's golden sunshine, the story that once shimmered with promises of independence has turned dark and tangled.
But they didn't. And now, with everything under more scrutiny than ever, they're just taking the educational details down instead. Harry's page doesn't talk about Eton anymore, doesn't mention the art coursework, doesn't get into any of it. Just gone. So now we've got both of them with these holes in their stories. Meghan's education and internship claims, Harry's academic record. And when you step back and look at all of it together, a pattern starts to show up. So here's where it all starts to connect. When you look at each of these things individually...
Now here's a video of Meghan watching Harry as he's giving out his award, and you can tell she is not happy.
You could maybe brush them off. A degree program name that doesn't quite match. Okay, maybe that's just sloppy writing on the website. An internship that was more casual than official. All right, maybe she just remembered it differently. A grad night that didn't happen the way she described. People mix up memories. It happens. Harry getting extra help at school. Lots of students struggle and get support. But when you line them all up together, that's when the pattern becomes pretty clear. We're not talking about one or two small inconsistencies.
Another bombshell in British media. A controversial decision by Buckingham Palace has angered the entire United Kingdom.
We're talking about multiple claims across both of their backgrounds that get questioned when people look closer. Meghan's got the Northwestern situation, the Argentina story, the Disneyland memory. Harry's got the Eton questions and how he made it into Sandhurst. And all of these things were sitting on the official royal website for years, presented as facts about their lives. Now think about what didn't get changed. Catherine's page still has everything. Her entire educational background at St. Andrews, her degree, her work history before joining the family.
Well, there's been big changes to the royal family's official website with the removal of one of Prince Harry's title.
All the charitable stuff she's involved in now, it's all still there, fully detailed. Same with Sophie. Her career in PR, her path to becoming Countess of Wessex, her patronages, nothing's been touched. William's page, Anne's page, they're all intact. The information stays up because there's nothing to question. It all checks out. So why is it just Harry and Meghan who needed their pages stripped down? Because the palace looked at what was written there and realized defending it wasn't worth the effort. Every sentence that stays up is a sentence that someone can fact check.
Why hasn't Meghan just cleared things up? If everything was legitimate, why not hand over the birth certificates, name the doctors, and move on?
And right now, when people fact check the claims that used to be on those pages, questions come up. The schools say something different. The timelines don't match. People who were actually there remember it differently. And look, this isn't about saying anyone's a bad person or trying to tear them down. It's about the gap between the image that was carefully built and what the records show. Meghan wanted to be seen as this worldly, academically accomplished person with international experience. Harry needed to look like he earned his way into military service fair and square.
Schofield attacks Harry and Meghan over Project Healthy Minds Award,
the first show that
citing
I've
their
seen it
toxic
on.
fan
Harry
base
and Meghan
and
Markle.
Those narratives helped them both. They made them look impressive, credible, accomplished. But when those details get questioned, you're left with a problem. Do you try to defend claims that keep getting questioned, or do you just quietly take them down and move forward? The palace chose option 2, and that choice says a lot. Now, the timing of when all this happened matters too. Because these pages didn't get edited randomly. There's a reason this all went down in October 2025, and it has everything to do with what's been happening over the last few years.
MZ Live, Harvey Levin here.
Charles here.
So, Meghan and Harry had quite the night. It started out very...
So let's talk about timing, because that's actually the most interesting part of this whole thing. These website edits happened in October 2025. Harry and Meghan left their roles as working royals back in 2020. That's 5 years. So why wait all this time to clean up their pages? Why not do it right after they stepped back? Or even a year later when things had settled down? Why October 2025 specifically? Here's what's been going on. Over the past couple years, more and more people have been looking at their backgrounds.
Harry and Meghan were once the golden couple of modern royalty, the photogenic pair who seemed to glide effortlessly from one glamorous...
Not tabloids necessarily, just regular people with internet access and time on their hands. Alumni from Northwestern started talking on forums and social media about Meghan's time there. People who worked at the embassy in Argentina shared their memories. Former classmates from her high school chimed in about the grad night situation. And with Harry, people who knew about the Eton situation started being more open about what they remembered. The thing about the internet is that it doesn't forget. Someone posts something on the royal website in 2018.
So there was one day in this epic tour that was specifically Meghan's day for women's education.
And even if you delete it in 2025, there are screenshots. There are archive sites that save old versions of web pages. People bookmark things, save PDFs, take photos of their screens. So all those original details about Meghan's double major, Harry's education, the Argentina internship, they're all still out there somewhere, preserved in digital amber. And now people can put them side by side with what schools and other sources are saying, and you can see where things don't quite match.
The Duchess of Sussex has denied wrongly using her former HRH title after becoming...
The palace had to make a call. They could try to address these questions, come out with statements explaining each situation, maybe provide documentation or clarifications. But that would mean getting into the weeds, addressing each specific question, probably opening up more questions in the process. Or they could just remove the information entirely and stay quiet. No statements, no explanations. Just edit the pages down to the bare minimum and let it be. They went with option 2.
Is there something you have learned about your dad in the course of this campaign that you didn't?
And honestly, from their perspective, it probably makes sense. Why fight a battle over biographical details for two people who aren't even working royals anymore? Why put out statements that could just create more headlines and more scrutiny? Easier to just take it all down and not engage. The problem is, removing information without explanation kind of makes people wonder why it needed to come down. It's like when someone deletes a bunch of old tweets. The act of deleting them makes people more curious about what they said. If the information was solid, why remove it?
Have you ever seen a single moment so tiny, so ordinary, and yet so explosive that it changes everything in front of...
If everything checked out, why take it down? The editing itself becomes the story. And this whole situation tells us something bigger about how institutions like the monarchy handle their image and their history. Let's get into that. So, here's the bigger picture. The monarchy isn't just a family, it's an institution that's been around for over 1,000 years. And institutions like that, they're really, really good at managing how they're seen by the public. They know when to put someone in the spotlight, when to keep them in the background, and when to quietly distance themselves from situations that might get complicated.
This video, which captured the exact moment when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were embarrassingly asked to return a gift and leave the garden party at
It's not personal, it's just how they operate. Think about how other royals who've stepped back have been handled. Eugenie and Beatrice, for example. They're not working royals, they don't do official duties, but there's no drama around their pages. Why? Because they've kept things simple. They show up for family events, they support causes they care about, they live their lives. There's no complicated backstory to manage, no different stories of their education or work history. Their absence from the working royal roster is just...
So, CBS just dropped something that pretty much set the internet on fire. An unaired portion of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's infamous...
Normal, clean, uncontroversial. Harry and Meghan's situation is different. They didn't just step back quietly, they've been pretty vocal about their reasons for leaving, their issues with the family, their side of the story. And that's fine, that's their choice. But when you're out there telling your narrative, putting yourself in interviews and documentaries, people are naturally going to fact-check what you're saying. And when those fact checks start revealing differences between what you've said and what's on record, the institution has to decide how to respond.
Tyler Perry was one of the few A-listers who loudly defended Harry and Meghan after the Oprah interview. He gave them a home, a private jet, and...
The palace's strategy here is actually pretty classic. They're not engaging. They're not issuing statements or getting into arguments. They're just quietly editing the official record and moving on. It's keeping things low-key instead of making a big deal out of it. For an institution that's all about tradition and continuity, this makes sense. Why get dragged into a he said, she said situation when you can just remove the questioned information and stay above the fray? But here's what's interesting about this approach in 2025.
You've asked me to comment on this video where Meghan Markle was challenged by the controversial and multimillionaire British-American influencer Andrew Tate.
We're not living in an era where institutions can just control information anymore. The palace can edit their website all they want, but they can't edit the internet. They can't make the old versions disappear. They can't stop people from comparing what used to be there with what's there now. They can't prevent discussions on social media or YouTube videos breaking down the changes. The old model of control the official record and you control the narrative doesn't really work the same way anymore. And that's why this whole thing is kind of fascinating.
Sykes from the Daily Beast sought information in 2020 from the LAPD about an incident
You've got this ancient institution trying to use their traditional playbook, edit the record, stay quiet, let time do the work. But they're doing it in an age where nothing really disappears. Every change gets noticed. Every edit gets saved somewhere. Every change becomes something people talk about. So even though they're trying to keep things quiet by removing information, the removal itself keeps the story alive. The other thing this shows is how the palace decides who gets defended. When working royals like Catherine or William face scrutiny,
I always say it's hard to be half in anything.
the palace will often step in with clarifications or push back against stories. But for Harry and Meghan, they're getting the opposite treatment. Instead of defending their backgrounds, the palace is essentially saying, they're not working royals, so that's not our job anymore. By stripping down their pages, they're creating distance. They're signaling that whatever questions people have about Harry and Meghan's past, that's not the monarchy's responsibility to address. So where does all this leave us? Let's wrap this up and talk about what it all actually means.
I want also to express my love for Harry and Meghan as they continue to build their life.
So let's bring this all together. We started with a simple website update in October 2025. Some biographical information got removed from Harry and Meghan's pages on the royal family site. On the surface, not a huge deal. But when you actually look at what got taken down and why, it tells a much bigger story about image, truth, and what happens when the two don't line up. Meghan's educational background, the double major that doesn't match what Northwestern offers, the questions about her final semester, the yearbook absence.
Meghan Markle has been accused of bullying a Spanish translator during Prince Harry's recent visit to Colombia. The incident, which took
The Argentina internship that looks more like a family favor than an official placement, happening during a time when the country was in crisis and embassy staff weren't exactly free to explore. The high school grad night memory that the school says didn't happen that year. Each one might seem small on its own, but together they paint a picture of someone who wanted to be seen as more worldly, more accomplished, more internationally connected than what's documented. Harry's situation is similar. The questions about Eton.
She was tired, but otherwise a dynamo. Indeed, she felt lucky not to be suffering.
The reports of extra help that went beyond normal tutoring. The teacher who left and got a legal settlement. The pathway to Sandhurst that probably wouldn't have happened without his royal connections. Again, nothing dramatic, but it shows someone whose credentials got a boost from who he was rather than just what he achieved. And here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with being a working actress from California who landed a successful TV role. There's nothing wrong with being a prince who struggled academically, but still found his path through military service.
What is a blackamoor brooch? In the Netflix docuseries with Harry and Meghan Markle, there is a discussion of
Those are real human stories. But somewhere along the way, both of them, or the people around them, decided those stories needed a bit more polish, a bit more shine. The palace went along with it for a while. They put those polished versions on their official website, let those narratives sit there on the record. But eventually, the gap between what was written and what could be verified got too uncomfortable. Too many people asking questions, too many discrepancies being pointed out, too much risk of having to address questions that kept coming up.
Prince Harry touched down in the UK, not with an entourage or a formal royal announcement, but with something far more personal, his phone.
So they made the strategic choice. Just take it all down. Don't explain, don't clarify, just remove it and move on. What's interesting is what this says about credibility. When you're out there making claims about unfair treatment, about how the institution failed you, about your side of a complicated family story, people listen more carefully when your own background holds up. But when questions keep coming up about your background, when the details of your past keep getting questioned, it makes everything else you say a little harder to trust.
History for the ages! Now, we all have our theories, of course. Here's mine. I assumed it was for the obvious reason.
It doesn't mean everything you're saying is wrong, but it definitely makes people wonder what else to take with a grain of salt. The digital age makes all of this more complicated. The palace can edit their website, but they can't erase what people have already saved, screenshotted, or archived. They can stay quiet, but that doesn't stop the conversations happening everywhere else online. The old approach of controlling the official narrative and letting everything else fade away just doesn't work anymore. Every edit gets noticed.
They were gutted. Gone were the elaborate details about her schooling, her supposed dual degree at Northwestern,
Every removal sparks curiosity. Every attempt to quietly revise the record ends up highlighting exactly what they were trying to downplay. So, where does this leave Harry and Meghan? Without the institutional backing they once had, without the official biographies that made them look impressive, standing on whatever parts of their stories hold up to fact-checking. And honestly, those real stories, actress who worked hard and made it, prince who served his country despite academic struggles, aren't bad stories. They're just not the more dramatic versions that got presented to the public.
To help him, Duke of York, and of course we have the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. So as of today, October...
The lesson here isn't complicated. When you build an image on details that get questioned, you end up with questions about everything. The palace learned that lesson and decided to cut their losses. Harry and Meghan are still learning it. And the rest of us? We're just watching it play out in real time, one deleted biography section at a time. So that's the story behind those October 2025 website edits. What looked like simple housekeeping turned out to be something way more interesting, a quiet acknowledgement that certain narratives just couldn't be defended anymore.
So as of today, October 1st, 2025, the
palace made their choice, the information came down, and now we're all left to connect the dots. If you found this breakdown interesting, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel out. Drop a comment too. I'm curious what stood out to you most. Was it the Northwestern situation, the Argentina story, the timing of it all? Let me know what you think because I actually read through the comments and it helps me figure out what to cover next. And if you're not already subscribed, now's the time. I've got more deep dives coming on stories that don't quite add up when you look past the headlines. Make sure you turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. There's always more going on beneath the surface than what we're told, and honestly, that's what makes this stuff worth talking about. Thanks for sticking around until the end. I'll catch you in the next video.